Good morning, Monroe Church family. Happy Sabbath. My name is Amber Lichtenwalter, and previously I was Amber Page, and I went to the Monroe Church about a decade ago with my family. First of all, I would like to say a huge thank you to those of you who know my family history and have seen me grow from a young fourth grader to who I am today. Thank you for quite literally living out what it means to be a servant of Jesus and what it means to be the hands and feet of Him. There are those of you who are sitting in the pew today who have exemplified what it means to be a servant of Jesus. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. Carmen asked me to send a little short video about a little bit of my history and what does it matter that 2,000 years ago a man died on a cross? What does it matter in my life? So what? As I believe is what her sermon title is. And she asked me to maybe talk about a specific instance where Jesus' life, death, and resurrection has made an impact on my life. I can't say specifically that there has been one instance in my life where I have felt that all three of those things have joined together and made a specific instance. I did just recently read in 1 Kings 19 about Elijah going up to the mountain to experience God, and it says that a strong wind came and basically tore up the mountain, and maybe like a strong tornado, and God wasn't there, that there was a massive earthquake and that God wasn't in the earthquake, and that there was a huge fire and God was not in the fire, but rather in the gentle blowing. All throughout my life I have felt that God's hand has been on me. Some powerful force has led me to where I am today. And I don't know exactly what that means or what that entails for the future, but I do know that there has been this leading from childhood. So how does Jesus' life, what does that mean for me? So what? So what? A nice man lived 2,000 years ago. He was kind, he was generous, he was resolute in what he decided to do. He was a healer, he gave hope. He questioned the popular belief of his age. All those things. What does that mean for me? I started out with a thank you. The way that this has impacted me is that people have lived the life of Jesus, and I have not seen Jesus, but I have seen the hands of Jesus. I have seen the working of Jesus through people sitting in pews this morning at church. And so I know for a fact that the way that Jesus lived has been lived out in people's lives. And so that is how I have experienced, how I have specifically felt Jesus in my life through people's lives because of how they have lived. And the next issue is Jesus' death. How does his death impact my life? So what? So a man died 2,000 years ago. A horrific, tragic event happened 2,000 years ago, according to biblical belief. And what does that mean for my life? In John 3:16, we all know the verse, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life." The God of this world, the author and creator of all things, sent his beautiful, perfect Son to die. I've come to realize, and I believe, it says that we must believe, that if I was the only human being on the face of this earth, even if I wasn't, but I was the only sinful human being, I made poor choices, I was selfish, I was prideful, all of these things I am, and I do. If I was the only person, if I can imagine what his death really was like in that horrific event, he would have still died for me. He would have gone to Calvary. He would have experienced all of that pain and suffering just for me. And his blood, the blood that he spilt, he became the sacrificial lamb that day. And the sacrificial lamb was to help wash away the sins and the impurities of the Israelites. And so Jesus' blood, it can and it does wash away my sins and my impurities. And that's all well and good, but the one thing, there is also one thing that sorry, it also means that for me, that his blood covers me, and the pureness that brings. God on his throne does not now see the pain and the suffering that I've caused, the sinfulness that I have brought, and who I am. He sees his son. He sees his perfect son in me. So Jesus died, and then we're told that he rested, and then the next day he rose from the grave. Satan is the master of this world. He is walking around and roaring like a lion. He wants to devour each and every one of us. And I have felt that in my life. I've felt that a demon kind of on the side, and he wants to rip apart families. He wants to create in us cloud our judgment so that we cannot make good choices. That is the enemy. He does not care about any one of us. He doesn't care how he does it. He just does not want us to have a relationship with Jesus. But Jesus' resurrection, it means that he has conquered death. Satan has no power anymore. If we will just recognize what Jesus has done for us, then there is no power over us anymore. I guess I want to share one story with you. I know that this is getting kind of long. I'm trying to keep it under 10 minutes. In 2009, I came back from Palau serving as a student missionary, and was starting a new school year. Not too long into that new school year, I got a phone call saying that my Aunt Julie had passed away, and that she committed suicide, and that she was no longer with us. And I'll never forget how painful that was, the tragedy that each and every one of us felt. She was plagued with a demon, and that demon finally took control of her life to the point that she ended it. And Jesus' resurrection, what it means to me is that he is also the perfect judge, and he will one day judge each and every one of us, and he knows our heart. He knows who we are and who will be in heaven with him. And my Aunt Julie was a beautiful woman. We all looked up to her. She was fun and hilarious. I mean, and so to see that a beautiful life was ended because she was plagued with something that was above her was horrific. So I believe that Jesus will judge my aunt, and he will judge righteously. And so Jesus' resurrection, I'm looking forward to seeing my aunt one day, if that is God's will. So in closing, my family has a long history of selfishness, pride, psychological disorders, depression, suicide, adultery, sexual immorality, all compounded by alcohol and drugs. This is who I am. This is where I come from. And my family was my immediate family was ripped apart by many of these things. And So what does that mean for me? How will I progress? How will I move forward? I have to recognize that this is what I will become. This is what I can become. But when my eyes are fixed on Jesus, the main point that I guess I want to make is that I can choose to follow in my family's footsteps, or I can choose to look at Jesus and look at his perfect life, look at what he has done for me, the sacrifice that he has made, and where he wants me to be, not only on this earth, but in heaven as well. John 10:10, I'm going to turn there so then I read it. If you guys want to go there too, you can. But John 10:10 says, "The thief comes only to steal." In my life, the thief is all those things that I just described, the selfishness, the codependency. It is Satan. Behind all of that, it is Satan. And he comes to kill and destroy. Well, he's done each one of those things in my family. He has destroyed families. He has ripped us apart. He has killed my aunt and my uncle. And suicide has been a huge part of our lives. But Jesus is talking here. He says, "I came that they may have life. And not only have life, but have it abundantly." I want to live life to the fullest, and I think each one of us do. And so with Jesus, he will give us a life, a full life. He wants that for each one of us, and not just in heaven, but now. Just as it said in John 3:16 that we must believe in him, so also it says in Joshua 24:14 and 15, they had just come through, the Israelites had just come through, and they were reviewing the history and how much God had led them, and yet they still served idols, and they still turned towards idols. And it says, "Now therefore fear the Lord, and serve him in sincerity and truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served." My fathers have served pride, psychological disorders, adultery, each one of those things. In 15 it says, "If it is disagreeable in your sight to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves today whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served, which were beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living." And then Joshua finishes with saying, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." That is a choice. And it boils down to that. We are human beings. We have the right of free will. And we must believe in Jesus. We must choose Jesus. And so what? What does it matter? It's big concepts, but it's broken down to very simple things that we must choose, either to live our heaven now or to choose to live in eternity with Jesus. And I want to see him. I want to experience Jesus in my life. And I guess that's why it matters to me. That's why he matters to me. And that's been something that I've learned through a lot of pain and suffering. And so if you're hurting today, if you have experienced psychological disorders, if you have been a bystander to horrific events, then Jesus' life, death, and resurrection is for you. He will give you the hope that you need to face another day. He will give you the security that you need. He will give you the peace that you need today and tomorrow and the next day. And that is why it matters. And then you can reach out and share, just like many of you have done with those around you, and bless someone else. And that is just what Jesus did. So I pray today that you may have a beautiful, happy Sabbath, that you may experience Jesus to the fullest, and that you can see in your own life where he matters.